to, hey, what is going on social media? Family, Corey Brimmer, Sugar and Bar, and I'm coming to you live. Or I don't know what we got. I've been trying to build out these things, man. I don't know if we want to call them podcasts or motivational hours or whatever. But today, I got my man Lee. Lee, what is going on, brother?
Corey, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be coming from my home here in Falls Church, Virginia.
His chateau. Guys, he's coming to us live from his chateau in the Swiss. Dude, you got a crazy background going on, and that's for real. That's not like that's not virtual.
Chateau or chateau, either way, it all works out. It all works out good. It's about just bringing in the vibe. I was telling you earlier, we're very blessed to be on a very big property here in Falls Church, and but we actually live outside of where our studio is. It's only about 1,200 square feet. So we finally souped it up, and I'm, as you would say, I'm living the dream at close to 40 here. So without a doubt.
Yo, so look, just really quick, man. I guess let's get some backstory. Like, Lee, do you remember how we met? Do you remember how we met, Lee? Do you remember what I was wearing? Do you remember what I was wearing?
I was thinking about that. I'm pretty sure Go Earl connected us in some way. That's what I'm kind of leaning towards. But
yeah, man,
like a bad first date. I don't exactly remember.
How long ago? Probably like I don't know, man. Like 8 years ago, maybe. Remember 8 years ago, you were doing salsa events, and you were doing them in like you did it in like that. Dude, I don't know if I can take my camera and show you. You had 200 people in a space, not even bigger than this room I'm in, and they were in there just boom.
That's
boom,
right.
Boom.
That's true. We were like, hey, it would be, the space was small, and we wanted to be able to maximize the opportunity, obviously, as entrepreneurs to make money. So we're like, and as opposed to going to get that liquor license, we went to Sugar Ram.
But you know what's crazy? When we did the events with you, we sold more water than alcohol.
Well, that's the Latin dance world for you. Now, that's not the Latino dance world, because Latinos love to drink. But in the professional Latin dance world, people are very serious. It would be like if you were for them, it's like a surgeon and taking 4 shots before you're about to do heart valve surgery. I mean, that some people are really serious, even though it's very interesting because it's in a social setting where you would think people would be happy to drink. But yes, that's why we're like, make sure we get $3 a water.
All right, so look, man. So look, let's kind of go to this though. So you have I mean, I can't really say you have this because you have so many things. But let's start here. You created a company, DCVX, right? Can we? Is that safe to kind of start there, maybe?
Yeah, sure. We can start there. I mean, so DCVX was kind of the. It really kind of was the beginning. I mean, granted, we were, if I go back a little bit back.
That's what I want. I want that out the mud. How'd you get it started?
Yeah, so let's go back. Let's go way back. So when I was about 8 years old, I was in Brooklyn, New York, and we were moving to the Poconos, and I had an opportunity. My aunt Emily, who was really instrumental in my life, took me to my first Broadway show, which was Cats, by the way. It was actually, Cats was a great musical, terrible movie, but great musical. So my aunt kind of fostered that spirit of creativity. And when my parents were like, hey, we're going to move to the Poconos for a better life. And, for any people that are watching, Poconos is basically in Northeast Pennsylvania. It's about 90 minutes from Brooklyn. But, going from city life in Brooklyn, 8, 9, 10 years old, having friends, to, woods, trees, and snow, it is quite the transition. So my aunt took me to a magic shop in South Street, Freeport, and I, got this little magic set and went to the Poconos. I was super bored, and I started doing magic.
Mm.
And for me, being I was kind of I was a little short. I was this kid coming in, didn't know anyone. So magic was a way for me to basically to kind of fit in, and it was almost like my little magic power. And when I was about 10, I kept practicing, and there was a local library, and I basically was like, hey, I do this little magic show. So I did a little magic show for the library, and at that point, probably about between 11 and 12, there was a little party store where they did like events and stuff. And of course, this is, anyone that's younger, these are the days where you had to go into a thing called the Yellow Pages. So there was no Google searching. If you were going online, it was like, it was like a 10-minute, sounded like a cow was dying. So for those of you guys that remember that, you remember it. But
You
I
showing
walked
your
in
age?
there,
You showing your age now, man.
yeah, that was a minute ago. I walked in there and I'm like, I'm a magician, and they're like, you're 11. So they're like, but you can start as a costume character, and oh, by the way, you have to do magic. So I literally like had to be Big Bird or Mickey Mouse and do magic tricks, which is actually much more complicated because you're literally a costume character with and I'll never forget, I was in this restaurant called Ribs and More. The Big Bird head weighed like 35 pounds. I maybe weighed 80 pounds, and I was in the bathroom just trying to put that stupid thing on. It had suspenders that goes, under your arms. And I leaned back to get the bottom part on, and I literally just, I fell down and I couldn't get up. As someone came in, had to save me as I was down there as Big Bird. And fast forward, I hit about 13. I met a friend of mine that he was like the other kid that was doing card tricks, and we became good friends, and we created this 2-man kind of comedy magic show. And literally all throughout high school, I never really had a quote unquote a real job. I was doing magic. We were doing magic at all different resorts. By the time I was 16, we were traveling.
Right, you're giving this story like you're 30 years old. You're a teenager. You're a preteen, killing it every weekend doing magic shows.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at McDonald's, but I was there once a week doing magic. Making, I think I made like 50 or 75 bucks a night. But when you're 12 or 13, that's great. So I had a great foundation, and I know what you're doing with Grindpreneur. I want people to realize I did not come from a family of entertainers. In fact, sometimes I kind of wonder where it all came from, because
where did it come from, right? Like, where did it come from? What separated you from your parents? Because your parents weren't doing, although albeit they're great people, took care of you and all that, but they didn't have that certain spark like you had, right?
Yeah, my parents are still to this day, and you've met them, they're at our festival at DCVX. The one thing that I will say is they were always.
No way, your dad had that spark. No.
Yeah, exactly. My dad took me to all my magic shows. He was the first one to take me to get my license when I turned 16. Because sometimes we'd have like 2-3 shows a day. I go out and bring him like cake, and then I go in and do my show, and that's how we roll. But my mom and my dad always instilled in me the spirit of going for what I wanted to do for my creative dreams. And even though it was like, you have to go to college, you have to do your thing, they were super supportive. There was never a conversation like, oh well, you can't be a professional magician your whole life. And
they never snuffed out your dreams. Like they made you, like, you still had to wash the dishes, you still had to do your homework, you still had to get good grades. Yep. You still had to do that, but they never made you feel like you're like, why do you want to do magic? Because I know that sometimes there's a lot of people out there that their parents, they literally like talk the dream right out of them.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it just made me think, and then I'll move forward. But when I was about 17, we were at a magic convention in Daytona Beach, and we convinced our parents to let us drive to Daytona Beach. And from Pennsylvania, that's when you're 17, I mean, they believed in what we were doing. And anyway,
Whoa, pump the brakes. Your parents let you drive from Pennsylvania to Daytona Beach at
well,
17?
we were already doing shows. We were starting to get booked doing shows like in New Jersey and New York. So it was a bit of a stretch, and it took a little bit of convincing. Luckily, my friend Jay, his brother, I think his brother was like 19. He was like 2 years ahead, older than us. So he drove down with us. So he was kind of our chaperone, even though we were kind of his
He was the
chaperone.
adult. He was the adult.
Yeah, but we were on the beach. We were doing this festival, and there was a very famous magician. His name is Michael Lamar, and you probably don't know his name, but to magicians, he is super famous. Just like in the entrepreneur community, there may be these world famous entrepreneurs that the average person may have never heard of. And we said his name is Michael Lamar, and we said, Mr. Amar, what's the advice you can give us? We're young, we're doing all these things. And he said, and I'll never forget this, he said, if you continue the life as a magician or as an entrepreneur in the entertainment field, you're going to live the life of a millionaire, but you may never have $1 million. And it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was powerful at that point because, and you can look at that positively and negatively, but the way we looked at it was looking at the positives of, when you get to travel on someone else's dime, you may not be making millions of dollars, but you're getting to see the world, which would cost tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to me, it was looking beyond the dollar.
Right.
Now, as I'm about to turn 40 this year, I'm hungry. We have cumulatively, probably made millions, but we're not, that's all going back into the business, so saying we're a millionaire, you can look at it different ways. My point is it stuck with me. And when I went to George Mason, I was on the public speaking team for 3 years. It was one of the top programs in the country, and really had a chance to hone my skills. And I stumbled upon a Latin dance class my sophomore year. And for me at that point, I had been doing magic for about 10 years, 11, 12 years. And I was, not that I was tired of it, but I wanted something new. I hadn't spent a lot of time hanging out with girls. My high school years were almost focused on becoming the best magician I could be. And I get super hyper focused. So dance was this outlet. It was like, holy crap, there's these like beautiful women dancing with like the shortest, ugliest dudes I've ever seen, and not that I'm a Casanova, but I was like, damn, I'm like, I'm like, that dude is like 60 and, he's killing it out there. So I started a bunch of bachata meetup groups. I was doing magic at Fuddruckers in Annandale.
You are really
true story.
yourself,
I just
bro.
taken.
You are really dating yourself.
Yeah, I true story. Annandale, Fuddruckers. I had just taken this world Latin dance class at George Mason. I had done my, I learned the basics, and I'm at Fuddruckers on a Monday night. And the GM was like, we should do a Latin night, and which is just crazy because it's like, who goes to a burger place to learn the Latin dance? But I'm like, yeah, we could do a Latin night. And when I was in high school, I did a program teaching kids how to do special education kids how to do magic tricks to build their confidence. So I'm like, I'm not the best Latin dancer in the world, but I know how to teach. I know how to make it fun. So we started that for a week, and then one night I was at Mango Mike's, which is right up the street, and I was dancing with this girl I was dating at the time, and they were
Mango Mike's was hot though, man. Mango Mike's was hot back in the day.
That was a spot. They had their big Thursday, and I was there dancing on a Thursday, and they're like, oh, do you teach? We want to do more of like a Latin night for people that like to dance.
I ran into you back then, man. I used to go to Mango Mike's on a Thursday, man. It was Mango Mike's. What was the other place a little further up Duke Street on the left-hand side? It's not there anymore.
Oh, Bicycle Club? Was it Bicycle Club?
I think so. They used to have a, but it became a Latin place. Um,
Yeah, it's there were so many cool places, but making a long story short, they were just like, hey, we were looking for an instructor. They wanted to do it on a Monday night. I knew the Fuddruckers thing was not a long-term solution, so I was like, great. And I basically got in, started teaching.
You had enough foresight back then to realize that the Fuddruckers, that wasn't it. That was,
Fuddruckers was good for Magic, and look, nothing against the Magic. I basically, to the most part, paid my way through college doing Magic. We had all the Don Pablos, Silver Diners, and Clydes on lockdown, and we were doing like, it was like, I think we were doing $50 an hour. We were doing 4 hours, then we got a free meal. I was like $200. Walk in there, we were getting tips, so it was nothing against the Magic.
That's good money 15, 20 years ago, man. That's good money, bro.
It was good money, but for the thing for me is every business that I've ever got myself into is something that I'm passionate about, and it's a double-edged sword because it's hard to sell something you love, right?
Right.
But it's also hard to put your heart behind something that you don't believe in.
Right.
So for me, my progression as a person, Lee El Gringuito was born through dance. I was Lee Edward Smith Jr. until I learned how to Latin dance, and then I became Lee El Gringuito, which was kind of like this alter ego, this white guy in the Latin dance scene that was making havoc. And it was like, hey, this guy's gonna do a Bachata Festival, which in 2009 people were like, you had to beg.
Yeah, so let's kind of dig into that. So let's kind of move a little bit further down the line. What made you sort of like want to organize this thing the way that you organize it? Like, how did that start? How did that begin? How did like the whole DCVX thing sort of come together? Because if people don't know, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know. So now he runs, prior to COVID, he was running, I mean, how many people did you have at your last biggest festival? I mean,
we had about 7,000.
That's insane. but where did it all start? Where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so progressing from that story, I was teaching at Mango Mike's, and then I started doing, someone had sauce, and Mike Cordero, who now owns like 11 restaurants in Arlington, is killing it. Mike had owned a place called Cafe Salsa, and he had come and heard that we were doing this Latin night, and then I started doing Cafe Salsa. And then one of the things, I went to Dominican Republic, and this was 2003, and I graduated Mason in, I think I graduated 2003. It was 2003, 2004. I was there on vacation, and I had seen bachata for the first time, and I was like, man, this dance, like, I didn't even know, because we didn't do, in our World Latin Dance class, we did salsa, rumba, cha-cha, but bachata is like kind of like that dance no one wants to talk about. It didn't really have the, let's just say, like, this, people didn't take it seriously, right? And the dancers in the show in Punta Cana, afterwards, I'm like, hey, we're Latin dancers, and start talking with them. I'm like, wow, that's like, that merengue was like sexy. They're like, oh, that's not merengue, that's bachata. I was like, oh, so can you show me the step? They showed us the step. I came home, and at that point, I think we had Google in 2004, but if you Googled the word bachata back then, like, you got like 3 things, and then the rest didn't even exist. So I was like, how is a dance that is sexier than salsa and simpler than salsa not marketed? And that was kind of my light bulb. Not a lot of people had that idea. I mean, back in the day.
So let's talk about that moment right there, because that's another grindpreneur moment. Every grindpreneur, like you said, the light bulb went off. You had your, Oprah calls it like the aha moment, right? There was something that you saw that just, and you're thinking to yourself, right, like, how come no one else saw this? You saw a huge opportunity, right?
Yeah, and I mean it, like any grindpreneur, you got to grind, you got to put in the work. So my first thing was like, okay, well, the major problem was DJs were not playing bachata. You had to basically beg them to play bachata. So back in the day, there was meetup.com. This was pre-Facebook.
Yeah.
And the concept of meetup was, like, hey, if you're a dog lover, if you're a Latin dance lover. So I started bachata meetups. And at one point, we had 20 bachata meetups across the country. in major cities: DC, New York, Miami, Atlanta, um,
Oh,
LA.
because most of so I remember Meetup being sort of like this was prior to like it wasn't really I saw people doing hosting parties, but they kind of stayed in their area. So there'd be like a guy in Alexandria, and there'd be a guy in like DC, and there'd be a guy in like Maryland. You took it beyond that to different cities.
Yeah, so the concept was, hey, if we can build a national following of people who love Latin dance, but specifically bachata, then this will create two markets. One that in the future we can use to produce a national, international festival. But secondly, it was kind of like a grassroots effort. So when we would travel to a city, if we were doing a corporate event or we were doing a show for a nonprofit, and we happen to be close to, let's say, Atlanta, then we would post on the meetup, find a nightclub, work a deal with them, and then basically do like, Leo Gringuito, bachata workshops. And then of course, when my wife and I, met in 2009, we did a whole like World Bachata tour. So it was building the foundation of the market really. And then in 2009, it was like, you know what, let's take a leap of faith and do a Bachata Festival. And that was only the third ever in North America, only the fourth or fifth ever in the world. People laugh. They're like, you guys are going to do this Bachata Festival. And the first year was crazy. We were at the Hyatt. Um, I probably lost about 10 grand, but
But what you learned, the college level course in life that you got from going through that.
well, yeah, what we learned, and my boy Ramsey, literally the day before we were going to go in, we didn't hit our numbers, and the hotel was basically stiff arming us, and I needed 10 grand, and your circle of friends and influence, I reached out, to my family, to other people. They're like, how everyone is in the moment where you need a favor, and my boy Ramsey was like, here's the $10,000, and that. Of course I paid him back. That $10,000 got us started. The next year, which was a crazy leap of faith, we went from the Hyatt, literally with like 350 people. The hotel was like, by the way, you can't have the party past midnight. Now, Sugar and Bar, DCVX, not having a party past midnight is like.
Everybody knows Lee and the way his parties go.
I mean, it's like a dagger before we even got started. The only thing I could afford that first year was a 15 passenger van. We had about 300 people. A mile from that hotel in Arlington was the salsa room, which we had done a lot of work with. And I just said, look, guys, I really need some help here. You will have my support for a long time, but I need a place to bring these people, and I can't charge them because they're already, but they're gonna drink, which will help your venue. So they allowed us to let people in. And my dad drove the shuttle on his birthday weekend, by the way. Drove the shuttle. And people that were there remember it because it was stuffing like 30 to 40, people into this.
In a 15 passenger van, double lapping it up, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. And this is what we did the next year. We signed a year contract with the Gaylord. We went from a venue that had literally 300 people to a place where we needed to at least no less than have 1,500 people. We brought a live artist, and we had an incredible year. We did about 1,600 people that second year at the Gaylord, and there was dancing in a fountain. I mean, there was just so much stuff that came that second year. And for me as an entrepreneur, and at that point, my wife, we had just started dating. She was helping, but we had not kind of forged our powers together. And I was like, you know what? I lost $10,000 the first year. This second year, we're either going to kill it or we're going to lose like 100 G's, and I'll never do this again.
Right.
And because the effort, the energy, it's so much work. And we had a great year. And then fast forward, we were DC Bachata Congress for a long time, and then now we have a film festival, an entrepreneur conference. Last year we had Sylvia Tramer's 50 Years of Comedy with Monique. So the event has kind of evolved into more of a South by Southwest feel on a cultural diversity vibe. So we wanted a name that still connected to the dancers. DCVX, the dancers look at it as like DC Bachata experience, but the overall branding is do connect, be an experience. So by day, be film, do your film thing, be dance, be entrepreneurship. By night, everyone connects in a collaborative way. And
Look, I think so. I remember as you were growing, right? I remember as you were growing, and I remember when you were getting everything out there, and you just took it to a whole nother level, man. Like you just took it to an insane, crazy whole nother level. So just really quick, give me that, like when you started, and then how you just exploded into a whole nother level.
well, it it was a lot of hard work, and I think all my years of doing magic, when you create a magic routine, every time you create that magic, you want to tell a story and you want to evoke an emotion, whether it's happiness, sadness, fear. So every year at the festival, I had that kind of inner energy that said, you can't just do the thing you did last year, because biggest mistake in any industry, I think, especially on a live event, it's like a concert. If you go see Beyonce on her 2018 tour, if you go to the 2019 or 2020 tour, you're expecting a different show. Now, yes, you want her to sing her favorite songs, but you want different set design. You want things to look differently. So it's kind of that yin and yang of balance, right? Giving people something that makes them feel like they're coming home, but then giving them that excitement. So every year it was like, how can we just take it to the next level and
Right.
deliver, and you've been to our event, as a small business, we produce, in as 5-time Latin diversity event of the year, an event that I think, when people see it, they think, wow, this is a $500,000 million production, that we get done for less than 6 figures. And that is a testament to us being able to be creative and be able to take different elements that make the event look bigger and grander. So, I mean, one year we had LED robots in the lobby for the welcome party. Well, you can't have LED robots every single year because, it's just boring. So then the next year it was, okay, we're going to get CO2 guns, and then the next year we're going to add confetti, and then the things that people really remember, we bring back. I will say this, this has been such a pivotal year for us because we have never imagined. We have DCBX in August, which is our Latin dance film entrepreneur 4-day festival in its 13th year, and then we have our New Year's Eve event, which is in its 9th year. And this year, both of those events didn't happen, even though we won virtual for both of them in different components. So it's been just an interesting lesson for us to embrace the new virtual experiences, but ultimately, it just literally just our world's completely changed. And
Yeah, let's talk about that, Leon. And as we maybe sort of kind of bring it to a close, your world was literally it was people, it was events, it was touching. How now do you pivot in this crucial time, in these uncertain times? What is your future? What does that look like?
So, and we were having this conversation before. 2020 for my wife and I and DCBX and our other businesses literally was our most prolific year in my 39 years on the planet as an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And it's taken me, it's so funny because these first couple of weeks of 2021, we have just not wanted to do anything. And I think we're tired. I mean, even though we didn't go anywhere, we pushed, and we pushed hard. And, you know, the last live event we did was at the Eaton Hotel. We were producing a Thursday rooftop party at Eaton, which was incredible. And the last event we did was March 16th, 2020. And we did that event. And then after that, we literally we have not produced a live event. This is coming from an events company that we were doing 1 to 2 events a week for other organizations, and then we were producing anywhere from 3 to 4 weekly parties, including 2 major conferences, one with 7,000, the other with about 3,500 people for New Year's Eve. All of that is gone. So at that point, we had to pivot. In April of 2020, we started Gringos Can Dance, which, you know, we were like, hey, people are at home, they're quarantined. And I look back at my kind of beginning days, you know, it was like, hey, I was this young kind of white guy, a little geeky, that wanted to fit in, and Latin dance was a way for me to kind of create this different persona, right? Like, hey, it's no, that's Gringuito. So Gringos Can Dance, we shot 70 videos in about 2 weeks, produced an entire series online on Groupon. In April, we started Flirting on the Floor, which is basically living room Latin dance date night. We were like, hey, if people are going to be home, we might as well, you know, there's couples. So how can couples connect? You know, even for my wife and I, you know, we love spending time together, but we're together 24/7 anyway. But when you're 24/7 home and not traveling and seeing different things, you know, there's new levels of stress. So Flirting on the Floor was a chance to connect, for couples to connect. Then fast forward to the summer, you know, we couldn't produce DCVX 12, so we did an entire virtual version of the conference. We had 35 workshops. We had instructors from Brazil, India. We had DJs spinning from the UK, Canada, France, live. We did a 2-day virtual festival, and we did the film festival completely virtual, the Global Impact Film Festival. We had 70 short films. We had filmmakers from Iran, as far as Australia, the Netherlands, US, Canada, Mexico. So we produced all these we basically did a virtual component of our festival. Fast forward to September 2020, we put out DCVX On Demand, which was helping our industry stay working. So it was your favorite instructors moves in 10 minutes or less. So we have over 15 of the top instructors in the world. And then the last part of our 2020 was these beautiful babies right here.
Bring it on.
So this is Gringuito sauce, and you know, one of the things we were looking at, we were like, how can we bring the energy of DCVX, a flavor fiesta, into people's homes? And I've been making hot sauce for fun for years, you know, just as a holiday present. And it was a bit of a leap of faith because this is definitely outside of our norm. You know, we've never produced a physical product. It's one thing selling online virtual courses or selling a festival. It's another thing when you sell a physical product that needs to be approved by the FDA and all those other elements that we had to learn. But in 4 months, we produced 4 sauces. And that was our 2020. All of that was 2020.
Wow. Wow. Well, Lee, man, look, I think our time is about to run out, man.
Crazy.
Man, I want to thank you for jumping on here. And where can people find you, man?
Yeah, so if you're interested in our live conferences, DCVX.org, we have an incredible mix of live events and of course, hopefully live events soon, pushing into 2022, but there's many virtual events. If you like hot sauce, you can go to shakethatsauceup.com. And there's, of course, our online courses, which you can find on Groupon or on DCVX. And, you know, Corey has given us the inspiration to start our own YouTube channel. While we've had a YouTube channel, we didn't give it the TLC it needed. So we have Flirting on the Floor, which is really teaching couples to dance through life on their own terms. And there'll be some great dance stuff there, but also stuff for couplepreneurs and marriagepreneurs who are looking for that extra spark, because it's hard balancing all those things in your relationship when you're working together. So that's how you can reach us. We're on Instagram at DCVX events, at Shake That Up, at Flirting on the Floor.
My man. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, man.